Hey everyone, my name is Nolan. Welcome back to another All the Mods 10 guide. This is the second guide in my guides series, I guess. Playlist linked down in the description if you guys want to check them out. I'm also doing a playthrough by myself right now. That playlist should also be linked down in the description if you guys want to watch that. But anyways, in today's episode, we're going to be going through how to set up the Applied Energistics storage system. Now, this is going to be a long intro, but I want you to hear what I have to say because it's really important. This is a storage system that will be highly integrated into your playthrough. This thing is connected immensely into my base everywhere and my farms and everything. So a lot of YouTube guys out there will tell you like how to build it and how to get everything, but won't give you a detailed explanation as to how it works. I want to do that because you understanding how it works will help you so much in the long run. This is a very long mod pack. You will use this thing and upgrade it a lot in this playthrough, the entire time. It is important to know how to get it set up early on, so that way you can efficiently complete the rest of the mod pack, and you will use it for the rest of the mod pack. So, I'm going to explain to you how it works, and I will also show you guys how to get it set up, like other tutorials, but just bear with me so you guys know everything you can know. So yeah, subscribe for more future tutorials, because I definitely plan to do that, and also if you want mid-gaming merch, merch down in description. Shameless plug. So yeah, in the last episode, I showed you guys how to set up a basic power module, or I guess a basic power reactor. This basic reactor will most certainly be enough for your early game Applied Energistics system. So go watch that guide if you don't know how to get power. You will need power to power your system. So yeah. Okay, first things first in the quest line, make the inscriber and charger, and then connect them to your power lines. And if you look at these Applied Energistics blocks, you will notice like this weird target pattern. These target patterns are where they can connect to power. So just make sure the correct face is facing a power source. Okay, now get yourself a compass and throw it into the charger. As you can see, the little animation is charging it, and now you get a meteorite compass. This will point you in the direction of a meteorite, which is what you will need to find to get all the basic items. But before you go off exploring, there's something you need to make. You need to make this sawmill from productive trees, and then you need to throw some logs in it, and as you can see, it will cut them. Now, out of this, you of course get planks, but you'll get sawdust. You need to cut enough logs to get 4 sawdust. Turn that sawdust into a cardboard box, and now you're ready to head off on your adventure. So yeah, a meteorite will look like this. You want to kind of find the center spot and then just break into it, but be careful because you don't want to break the items in the middle, basically. Okay, these Certus quartz blocks are okay to break. These budding ones, don't break them. This mysterious cube you can break. In fact, you need to break it to get all these presses, but break all this sky stone around it. You'll be able to turn it into farms later on. Now, what you're looking for is something called a flawless budding Certus quartz. So you can break these to help you find it, but it looks like this. So this is flawless, and what you want to do is right-click it with your box. Now, you can't transport these with Silk Touch. This is the only way to transport these, and you will need to transport them so you can set up some farms, because you will need Certus quartz crystals and Certus quartz dust. So maybe consider bringing a couple cardboard boxes, because as you can see, there's a couple blocks in here, so I can set up several farms. Then basically you can just break the block with a pickaxe like you normally would. The reason why you want the flawless blocks is because they grow crystals, and as blocks grow crystals, they degrade. The flawless ones do not degrade, so you can get infinite crystals and dust out of them. All right, so I'm just gonna set this up right here. Once you place the block down, shift right click it, and I would recommend doing what I did, where I put it 1 block in the air. That way you can maximize the amount of faces these things grow. Now, just for the sake of this tutorial, this is out of the scope of the tutorial. I'm gonna make a growth accelerator just so I can speed up this process to show you how it works. These growth accelerators do need to be connected to power. But yeah, over time, these crystals will grow and you can harvest them for Certus quartz crystals. Make sure they are the full amount, so that way you're not just breaking them and not getting anything out of it. Once you break some of these to get crystals, and then even some more to get dust, you can turn that into fluix. Fluix can be turned into cables, and make sure you remember how to make these quartz fibers, because those are also important. And then also remember to go through these processor quest lines. They're not complicated. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just throw the items in the inscriber to make these different processors. You basically just need to follow these quest lines of making all these items. All these materials are showcased in this quest line, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Remember, I had told you to save that sky stone because you will need it to make the ME controller. Basically, these beginner quest lines merge into this ME controller right here, which is where in my opinion, this true tutorial begins. So this ME controller block, like I said, has to be connected to power, and this is essentially the heart of your storage system network. Now, let me clarify my definitions of these words so that way you guys aren't confused. Ignore what everything else in this mod pack tells you for a second and just listen to my words. A network is anything that in some way connects to these ME controllers. You can have multiple ME controllers, but they still combine into like one multi-block, and a multi-block would look something like this. Now, there are specific ways you need to set it up. The guide will tell you how to do that. Something like this is not valid. As you can see, it turns red, but something like this is valid. Now, basically, anything in your ME storage network that is an input and an output is going to be what's called a channel. Now, what I would recommend doing is typing in applied Energistics into your JEI here, and then you can kind of go through the different items that there are, because there are a lot. Export buses, interfaces, pattern providers, and as you guys progress in this mod, specifically this mod, you will start to learn what exactly takes up a channel and what doesn't. Now, I say input and output, but that's not entirely true, because an export bus, which exports item out of the system, that takes up a channel, but something like a pattern provider, which technically is an input and output, doesn't take up a channel. So it's kind of trial and error. Now, how do I know how many channels my system has? Well, the reason why you would want to make this a multi-structure is because each face on one of these blocks has 32 possible channels. So the more faces you have exposed in your multi-block, the more channels you have access to. Now, what's important to notice is this. What you will do is you will start connecting things to your storage network with these cables. Now, these basic Fluix ME glass cables, which is like the core ingredient for all your cables, these can only hold a maximum of 8 channels. So even though this face has 32 channels, this cable only has 8. So what you really want to do is connect a dense cable to this network. As you can see, these dense cables up at the top have 32 channels. Now, one more thing I want to note is anything that connects to these is considered a network by my definition. Any cables are considered a sub-network. Anything that connects to a cable line is considered a sub-network. Now, you can have a sub-network of a sub-network by doing something like this. When you have these dense cables, things like export buses, storage buses that take up channels usually can't connect to these smart cables, or dense cables, sorry. They can only connect to these Fluix cables. So that's when you would need a sub-network. If I did something like this, where I kept piping off these wires in different directions, I could then utilize all 32 channels available to me. 8 channels on this pipe, 8 channels on this pipe, 8 channels on this pipe, and then 8 channels on this pipe. So the most efficient way to go about this is connecting dense cables where you can, and then these pipes when you need to actually connect the channels. Now, I know I'm talking a lot, but it's important to know what happens if you have something like this, where you need to have both pipes going in the same direction. Right now, I can only connect 8 channels to this pipe system, or this sub-network. But, like I said, there's technically 64 channels available here because I'm using 2 faces. I guess I should be more specific. There's 16 because I'm using these Fluix ME glass cables, but because they're connected in the same sub-network, there's only 8 available. So if I use these quartz fibers, what you can do is place them in between these cables. And what it does is they're still connected to the same network, but now they are their own sub-networks. So now I have 8 channels here, and then 8 channels here. Extremely complicated structure jump scare. Just let me explain what's going on here. Here, I have a dense cable that uses all 32 channels. It comes out of a single face, and then eventually, as you can see, the cables split off into sub-networks. But because I wanted everything to be so compact, what you can see is these different channels have lots of quartz fibers intertwined in them to keep the sub-networks separated, but still connected to the main network. Because all these items get imported using an ME import bus, there are a lot of channels used. Each cell has their own channel. So that's why I needed so many. Okay, you understand how that works now? You understand how you can expand your ME controller when you need more channels. You understand how to efficiently use those channels by connecting these cables to different faces, and how to separate the different subnetworks. Now, by the time you reach this ME controller quest, you should have both a regular terminal and a crafting terminal. You'll pretty much never need this terminal except for crafting recipes. It's the ME crafting terminal that's the most important. So like I said, I can't throw this down. The way you can know it doesn't connect to a dense cable is because the connection part is on the outside of that cable. If I try to connect it to a Fluix cable, as you can see, the like smaller part hooks onto the cable, which is what you want. So let's throw this onto my network. And as you can see, I am now using one of 32 channels. But yeah, this is where you craft. You'll have access to all the items in your network in here. So how do you start storing items? Now, the very basic concept is with an ME chest, but we're not going to use that. We're going to use what's called the ME drive. Again, I'll just connect this. I know this is not the efficient way of connecting because it's connected to 2 different subnetworks. But for the sake of this tutorial, we don't need to really get too nitpicky about this. But as you can see, even though this device isn't input and output, it still counts as a channel. So it's really just trial and error of figuring out what counts. Now, once you've made that, you need to make your storage components, and you can make different sizes. I would just recommend starting with the basic one just to get familiar with how it works. Once you make this storage component, you need to make an item storage housing cell, and then you just combine them to make an item storage cell. So I made both of those, so I'll just make this, and then I'll throw it into my ME drive. Now, what you will see is that each cell can hold a maximum of 63 types. To give you an idea of how many types you'll use, let me show you how many I've used. I have what's called an ME extended drive, and I'll get into the extended aspects later. But in my extended ME drive, I've used all 63 types for a full drive, and then on a second drive, I've only used 3 cells with 63 types. Now, the bytes in storage, I'm still kind of confused about, but let me throw in a single item with a single type into my network. What you will see is that takes 1 item type and 9 bytes. If I throw in another item, the bytes doesn't go up, and that's because 8 items constitute as 1 byte, just like in a computer where 8 bits is 1 byte. So now it went up 1. So I believe what it is like 1 item type takes up 8 bytes, and then from there on out, each 8 items on top of that takes up another byte, from what I understand. Because if I just start to throw in other item types, as you can see, the number of bytes consumed goes up a lot. So when you see something like 1K ME storage cell, that is not 1K items, that is 1K bytes, which is technically 8,000 items if you only have 1 item type in there. So in my advanced playthrough, I have 1 million bytes of storage in my cells, but I'm only using half of that, and I have, as you can see, hundreds of thousands of items in there. In fact, I think the most I've taken is this one here, which is 700,000 bytes, and as you can see, that's because I have like millions of items in that single storage cell. So obviously you're not going to want the 1000 because it's pretty dang inefficient, but just for the sake of this tutorial, I thought I'd show you this option. These things can get pretty expensive to make because as you upgrade them, you need the previous upgrades to make that upgrade. So 4K takes 3 1K, but then a 16K takes 3 4Ks. So that's a lot of resources. However, your network is done. Now, one more thing I forgot to mention is you can actually pump fluids into your network. For example, if I open my wireless network, you can see I have water in my system and a lot of it. That just makes future crafting and other things way easier. So what you want to do is get a sink, which is really easy to get. It's just terracotta iron and a water bucket, and you can get terracotta by smelting clay. Then you just want to throw a storage bus down onto a Fluix network somewhere, sub-network, I guess, and then just place the sink down with the back facing the storage bus. And as you can see, water is now in the system. Now, if you want to click on this to extract it, like in a water bucket, you need to actually put some buckets in there. So if I throw some buckets into my system, once I just click this water, I can drag it out of my system. Now I can also right click anywhere in here to refill it and then put the bucket back. And if you get creative, you can find ways to import lava and other fluids. Using something like an import bus or a tank with lava in it in a storage bus, you can do whatever. Now, for an appropriate outro. My intro was very long and wordy because I wanted you guys to understand where I was coming from on how I explained this. Now, in my mind, going forward with Applied Energistics is just as complicated as getting set up. Go to your JEI, and if you type in Applied Energistics, you have all the basic items here. However, Applied Energistics goes beyond just this. From what I understand, there are 3 tiers. The basic tier, where the primary crafting component is Fluix. The next tier can be found by doing @extended AE, and the next tier consists of these ingots, I guess. The third tier can be done by searching advanced @advanced AE, and it consists of the quantum alloy. All 3 tiers get their own separate video. Otherwise, this becomes something far more than a beginner's guide. On top of that, just the Fluix tier alone has other options, like crafting recipes. For example, if I open my thing and I want to make a growth accelerator for my farms, what you can do is click on it, click next, and it will automatically craft it for you. So things like auto crafting, things like the wireless network so I can access my network wirelessly, all of those are going to get their own videos. So make sure to subscribe so you guys don't miss those. So thank you guys for watching this tutorial. Hopefully you guys found it useful and informative. If you did, make sure to smash the like button. And of course, subscribe for those next guides coming out because they will come out soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. And I hope to see you guys in my All the Mods 10 playthrough. Bye-bye.